Hello, dear chess lovers. I'm so excited to tell you that we have a very special guest today from Norway. She's called Solveig Friberg, also called Rookie Redhead. Will be an exciting episode for all of you guys, especially for adult improvers, because Solveig improved a lot after starting chess, I think 2021. She showed rapid progress. Her FIDE rating is 1570. And also she's an educator, she's a professional educator, a pedagogue, and she will tell us all about good practices of education psychology. This will be a very good session for all of you adult improvers and chess learners, even chess coaches. We can learn a lot from Solveig's insights today. I'm super excited to host you, Solveig. Welcome to the show.
You know what? I'm so excited to be here and that you asked me to come on your channel because I'm a huge fan of your YouTube channel.
Oh, thank you.
I watch your videos all the time recently, and
Wow.
and there's one thing you do in your YouTube videos where you will ask a question about the position, and then you'll have to think about it, and then you say, if you found this move, you're a great chess player.
Yes.
And then I always feel like, oh yes, I am a great chess
You
player.
are a great chess player, yes.
So yeah, I'm a huge fan of your channel, and I'm really excited to talk to you today. Just a small correction, I actually started playing in 2022.
Okay, that was even later.
Yeah,
oh my god,
yeah.
that's even more impressive. That's okay. Sorry about that, Solveig.
No.
Yeah,
No.
2022. Can you just take us briefly? Then that can be the first question, Solveig. Briefly on that time that you learned the chess. Like, tell us about that time. How did you see the game? It was a Norwegian TV, I guess. And how did you feel in love with this beautiful game? And tell us a bit about the progress of how you improved your game so quickly.
So the thing is, I learned how the pieces move from my dad when I was a kid, but I didn't understand the depth of the game. So for me, chess was just like Ludo. And I don't know, maybe Ludo is just like super deep, but I don't think it is. So I didn't have this understanding. I thought chess was just a easy, simple board game. I actually thought I was good at it. So the thing was, I watched this Norwegian broadcast because they show chess, the World Championship every Christmas. So we Norwegians sit around the Christmas tree and we watch chess on the TV.
Wow.
Randomly I sat down to watch this match between Magnus Carlsen and Jan Nepomniachtchi. So it was Christmas 2021. Right. And the analysis, I listened to it and I started to understand that I have no idea what he's talking about. And then I started to realize, okay, there's a lot to this game. It's actually quite deep. And then I just fell straight in love then and there because I wanted to understand the mechanics of the game. So I set this New Year's resolution to learn as much as I possibly could about chess in 1 year. I got 2 coaches, I joined the chess club, I played many tournaments, and I did everything I could possibly to improve. And of course, when I started out, I thought, okay, if I do this for a year, then I will understand a whole lot, I will be so good. But that wasn't the case. I got to around 1300 FIDE in a year. And then I, of course, really realized I don't know anything yet. There's so much more to learn. And that just reinforced, the love for the game, because you can just keep on learning and peel off all these layers of the chess onion and get deeper and deeper. So that's the reason why I love it.
That's amazing. So, by the way, guys, I forgot to mention that Solveig is also a Chessable author with an amazing course we will discuss today. I think the second one is coming along the way. And she's a Twitch streamer. She's on Instagram. I will put all the links on this video description. But she's a multi-faceted person. On top of having full-time job, pedagogy studies, she's also improving in chess and doing all these things at the same time. I mean, that's a whole different question itself. How can you manage all these things? I will ask you later, Solveig. But yeah, I should have mentioned that. So your chess, okay, so the beginning of your chess love start in Norwegian TV when you're watching Carlsen and Nepomniachtchi match. And do you think some part of it was also the way that it was presented to you, like the commentary? I know there's this evil bar discussions on Norway, right? Should we show like how accessible was it for you as a random, person who has very little idea about chess?
Extremely accessible. So they've even, done not research, but they've checked like the audience that watched the Norwegian chess broadcast during Christmas. A lot of them don't even know the rules. So the broadcast, it's not like this serious sports broadcast. And that is what I think they do completely right, because they make it fun. They have competitions for the viewers. They can send in this text message and get their question on the TV screen. And Norwegians love to see their name on TV. And then you also have a mix in the panel between Norwegian celebrities who doesn't know much chess, and then you pair them with some experts. And then you also have the people that sit in the panel that work there. They actually don't know that much chess themselves. So you have this really light, environment. And they get to ask each other questions, and they get to laugh. And it's not serious at all. Or maybe like serious in the analysis. But, it's not like... It's very casual, low shoulders.
Low shoulder.
We have a Norwegian word actually. It's koselig. It means
Koselig.
like it's cozy in a way. It's like just good vibes.
And
people
music,
just and people just have it on their TV. Maybe they go to cook some Christmas food, and it's just a good vibe. So that is what I think they're doing very right, because it makes it more approachable.
Accessible.
It's not like you have to understand the depth of the analysis to participate in a way. You can, just participate in it for the good vibes.
So that's how it sort of started. And you said you start loving the game because of its very challenge, right? Like the game is so challenging, so deep, so complex, and one can always improve with more work. So that was basically what you found interesting. And you started to devote your time in this chess jungle, like this New Year's resolution, and you got 2 coaches. Can you tell us a little bit about that? 2 coaches while you're still studying or working. I mean, wasn't it a little intense period for you? Like, tell us a bit about that training part.
But I was so motivated. It was my New Year's resolutions. I was very fueled by that motivation, that initial surge of motivation. I don't have that anymore. So I'm not like able to train with the same intensity as I did then. But it was just that initial spark of motivation. I get that sometimes because I get a new hobby and I just become completely obsessed. But the special thing about the chess is that the obsession didn't disappear.
Right.
It just stayed. But now it's a bit more sensible in a way. and not so intense.
Yeah, because I mean, working with 2 coaches, you said you also played in so many tournaments. I think that's also the key, right? To be able to improve, we should playing in those high stakes games as much as possible, right? And analyzing your games and so on. I guess that was the key, right? Yeah. Okay, so then comes this question of, at the same time as you were improving, you also started to work on a Chessable course, which is now becoming a big success already. I checked the reviews. I mean, that's incredible. Already you received like 4.87 out of 5 stars. That's like top, and even like the reviews were amazing. So also tell us about a bit of that. Like, how come then you started to work on a Chessable course? What was the intention and why, as always? Yeah, what was the whys behind creating that course?
Yeah, so I was absolutely over the moon when Chessable contacted me about creating a course, but I had like a major imposter syndrome. I was just like, why on earth do they want me to do this? I'm not a title player, but I spoke with them, and through our conversations, I started to understand the reasoning, because we have this rise or surge of adult chess improvers, and it's actually a little bit of a gap in learning materials that are available for those with online ratings between 0 to 1200, and a lot of existing resources, they are geared toward children, and many of the beginner books are actually a lot more difficult than complex. They might seem. Like for example, the first book I purchased was The Amateur's Mind. And that is, of course, a fantastic book, but it's not exactly suited for someone who just learned how the pieces move. And I also picked up, I actually have it here, the Build Up Your Chess series by Arthur Yusupo.
Yes.
And this is like one of my favorites still. I think it's so good. But when I just started out, I struggled with most of the exercises, so it was like a little bit too challenging as well.
Sure.
And in my conversation with Chessable, we were talking about how challenging it can be for title players or grandmasters, and especially those who excelled in childhood, to remember what it's like to not recognize these common patterns struggling with visualizing 1, 2, 3 moves ahead, right? And when you can't remember that feeling, it becomes difficult to create truly beginner-friendly material. And actually, Søren Kierkegaard, he has a very beautiful quote about teaching, and I'm not going to recite it because it's too long, and I'm probably going to butcher it. But he essentially says that to teach effectively, you have to meet the student where they are. So important. You have to see in a way what the student sees. And I think that is why you often see, like at clubs around different places in the world, actually a lot of 1500s, they are teaching the complete beginners because they still remember vividly how it feels to struggle with the basics. And with those memories fresh in my mind while writing Breaking 1000, I think it turned out very well. And my day job as an educator, it gave me, valuable experience because I have been crafting, teaching and learning materials for a long time. And I also had my coach, International Master Petter Haugli, throughout the process as a consultant, and he would do the peer review and quality control. And, the amount of positive reviews has just been completely overwhelming. And the course, it launched in May. But I still get messages on the course forum by students who tell me, like, I've been stuck on this plateau for so long, but this helped me with this breakthrough. And they even post their, Breaking 1000 games on the forum.
That's
so I
amazing.
can view it, and I can see that they're applying things that they learned in the course. And
That's
I get so emotional every time because I'm just so proud of them.
I know the feeling,
so it's just amazing. It's just been really great.
It's the best feeling ever for a coach. I have the same feeling for my elevator course, but also on YouTube. I keep receiving almost on a daily basis somebody saying that because of your videos, I climb, I keep winning, I raise this. It's an incredible feedback that you receive from the people. And again, I think the key is that you catch people on their right level of expertise. By the way, she said the right name for Danish, Søren Kierkegaard. It's called Søren Kierkegaard for some English speakers, right? This famous Danish philosopher, of course. And I think the same summary is made by this beautiful book called Visible Learning by Hattie. They sort of like a Bible of education psychology. They compiled so many studies, meta-studies, and wrote this book called Visible Learning. The basic idea is that learning should be visible for both sides, for both teacher and student, and you need to catch them at the right level of expertise. So what's the best predictor of good education is the level of the student, right understanding of the right level of the student, and try to see them, right? Try to formulate material that actually is just on the right level for what the student is right now. And I think that's what your course was a success, because you've been there very recently, but also you used your education psychology background, I guess, to craft the course like that, Solveig, right?
Yeah. I just started looking in my pedagogy book because the book you're referencing, is it Hattie?
Hattie,
Hattei.
Yes. Exactly.
Because the things that I'm really excited about are like completely contradictory to some of the things they have found.
Interesting.
So maybe we might actually have a debate here.
Yes, let's discuss. Exactly. No, we are here to discuss the best educational practices. There's no single science that always works. Of course, there are different approaches. I also want to talk about social constructivism a little bit with you today, maybe group learning and the social aspects of chess improvement. Let's dive in there as we move along. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I'm excited. I hope we will not get into
let's
academic fist fight here.
let's fight and make it more interesting for YouTube viewers. Right. So then if I ask you this way, what do chess teachers or learners fundamentally misunderstand when it comes to improvement?
This topic is so fascinating and interesting to me right now because I am doing my part-time studies in pedagogy. And my full-time job, I am a manager of a study program in a private school here in Norway, and this is a vocational school. So the vocational school, the focus is on preparing students for specific careers in, trades or crafts. And, what is very interesting is that this type of learning is very different from the academic approach. So you have the approach for the crafts and you have the approach for the academia. So I'm gonna do an example from ancient Greece, just because I think it's fun. So the trade or the craft, that would be, for example, the artisan that is making a sculpture, and the academic could be like a mathematician, right?
Right.
So in my daily experience in the vocational school, where we teach trades and crafts, I have started to notice very, surprising similarities between this hands-on learning style and actually learning chess. So what I have come to believe is that chess, in essence, it's more like a trade or a craft.
Craft learning.
Because it's something that requires practical, hands-on experience. But my belief or my perception is that many chess learners, they seem to approach chess as an academic pursuit.
Interesting.
And I do absolutely believe that you can view chess through a lens of academia and research, but I do believe that this lens, it must build upon an already solid foundation of practical skills. So in essence, I think this academic lens, it should in a way be reserved for already strong players. So what I think is that many chess learners, they're approaching chess learning backwards because they use the academic style of learning when they should actually be using an approach that is more like learning a trade or a craft. So this is like something that is consuming me a lot lately, and I'm very, very interested in it.
Yeah. So what are they doing then if they are approaching from an academic perspective? Like, do they just get some theoretical books, maybe not such a high impact on a practical game, maybe distracting themselves in some chess historical nuances or so much opening study, like theoretical knowledge? Can you explain to us what kind of things they are doing then in academic style?
So the differences between the academic and the trade learning. So, okay, in the academic learning, the teacher, they typically present the theory first, and then you do practice exercises after.
Right.
That is the deductive way of learning. But when you learn a craft, what we argue in the vocational school, and this is where FIDE disagrees, but we believe this very strongly, is that learning a craft, that is much more effective through the inductive approach. So you start with the hands-on practice, and then you move on to discussing the theory after. So the inductive learning, it builds on experience and praxis.
Right.
And the deduction is built on logic and theory. So with induction, like we argue is better for craft, the conclusions are drawn for practical experiences.
True.
And the tradition of vocational learning, like where I work in vocational school, that is heavily influenced by the inductive method. Doing is the foundation of learning.
Right.
So like if we go back to that ancient Greece analogy, I imagine like a sculptor, and he's trying to master their craft by reading a bunch of theory. That approach, it would not be effective because he would, he would theoretically understand what should I do with my tools, what should I do with my hands. He would theoretically understand it, but when it comes down to it, and he's actually going to make the sculpture, his hands would not listen in a way. So what he needs to do is to get his hands into the game. He needs to practice, and practice more, and then the evaluation and theory, it kind of comes as part of the process or after to guide him in the right direction. And I think already, in chess instruction, teachers are already doing a lot of things right. Because what do teachers do? They emphasize the importance of playing and then analyzing.
True.
And that is the inductive method right there.
Right.
But I think students don't fully understand how this approach is actually rooted in proven learning methods. And that includes me. When I started out, because I heard all of this advice, play games, analyze, but did I do it? Did I listen? No, I did not listen. I would passively read, I would passively watch, and even worse, I would study a whole bunch of advanced opening theory because I thought, because this is what I was used to from school, from academia, I thought I had to gather all of this knowledge first, and then the skills would come as a result from that. But that is the deductive approach to learning, and I think it's backwards from what you need to do when you learn chess. And even now, when I discuss a chess position with my coach, I can totally understand, oh, this pawn trade was good because it gives me a permanent outpost for my knight. But then, when I actually sit down to play a game, I would make horrendous decisions, and maybe allow my opponent an outpost. And why is that? I think it's like the sculptor who knows the technique of working his equipment, but the ability to actually do it has not developed yet. And I think this gets me very excited, because I think this might be the root of this misunderstanding, because I think chess is viewed as an intellectual pursuit in society, and it's not viewed as a craft. So I think more emphasis needs to be put on playing, gaining practical experience before accumulating loads of theoretical knowledge. You need to play loads of games. Look at Tyler 1. Are you familiar with Tyler 1?
Yes.
But equally important of that equation is analyzing the game after.
That's the key.
Because if you don't do that, you're just doing work and never evaluating it. So, for example, if you go back to the sculpture, if he just creates a shitty sculpture, and then he just continues making more and more shitty sculptures and hopes, like maybe one day in the future, my sculpture will be beautiful. That won't happen. So what he needs to do is to actually evaluate. Why is my sculpture shitty? Oh, maybe the nose was a bit too small. Maybe the proportions are off. And then he needs to pinpoint it and change it. And if he's not able to pinpoint it on his own, he needs help from someone who is better so that he can actually change it. And now, I've been ranting for a long time. I'm sorry, I'm very excited about it.
It's an amazing knowledge, because this is so relevant also, because I will soon talk to Nick Vasquez more or less on the same issues. Like, we will actually touch some subjects that is about this particular area in education psychology. Is also called productive failure. There's one guy called Manu Kapoor who wrote extensively about this. So it's sort of in between direct instruction, which in your model is like, deductive learning. You give this solution to the student. You even give them the whys behind the solutions, all the steps for the right solutions. Totally passive learning. There's also some, by the way, support for that. It's not like a terrible idea. On the other hand, on the other extreme, there is a pure discovery learning approach, that you're leaving the students compete on themselves. They are supposed to create all the hypotheses. They are supposed to play games hands-on, but with very little guidance. They will need to figure out whys and so on. In the middle way, there is this productive failure approach, which also gets lots of support. It's basically about what you said. You let them fail first by trying, playing, and then gaining information after reflection. Right? If they keep on trying and failing, hence productive failure, because they fail, but that's a very productive failure. And then once you reflect, once you understand the mistake and then take actions to fix those mistakes, that leads to better transfer. That leads to, they deeply understand why certain things actually work in chess. For example, the outpost you mentioned, right? You fail, you give this outpost to the opponent, and then you analyze your game. Then that leads to a much deeper engagement and much better transfer for the future. So
and
super.
you need to apply that theory. You need to apply it in practical play. And I think, as I said, I think teachers are doing much right already, because we are telling them you need to play and you need to analyze. But I think also we need to explicitly communicate to our students, why do you need to do that? Because I think we can't just take for granted that they will play and analyze because we say so. If they don't understand why. Because then they might believe that this academic method that I have used their whole life is more effective. Because we need to remember, these are grown adults, they're intelligent. Yeah. And we, as humans, we're not stupid because we're below 2000 rating, right?
Right.
So I think if you're asking them to do something, we need to back it up and tell them why. And then I think it will become much easier. And for my next Chessable course, I'm actually clearly communicating all of this to my students throughout the content, and I'm currently also exploring ways to just revamp the whole course structure so that students are actually required to apply what they're learning through practical play, and also with clear guidelines for what they should focus on in their post-game analysis, because there's so many possibilities available at the Chessable platform if we just think creatively and outside of the box. And I just find it really, really valuable to, and also inspiring, to use what I'm learning in the vocational school and apply it to chess learning, but also vice versa. It's just interesting to see how those things work together.
It's just amazing. I mean, of course, that's a very good point that you mentioned there, that Chessable allows so many different ways to actually show our creativity as educators, right? Intent is so important, intent of the teacher, right? Hence visible learning. Like, I'm showing my intent to you, why this is so important, right? What I want to achieve from you, given the best education psychology practices, to convince you to try and learn that way. Obviously, in my channel, if you look at my channel, by the way, I'm teaching them very important chess patterns and chunks, recurrent and important either thought process algorithms, let's say, or very important endgame chunks. For example, rook endgame, pawn play, that is high chance of occurrence in their games, given my observations as a coach, given what I saw was typical mistakes. And I'm activating them, right? I'm actually asking them to stop the video, right? I won't like spoon feed them directly. First, please stop the video and think for yourself first. That's always how I start, right? Hopefully you are doing that, by the way, guys. I mean, please do that. That's actually backed up by science, as Solveig has said. First, trying yourself, even though you fail, once you get my feedback, that leads to much better learning, right? Do you agree, Solveig? So it's
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I noticed you do this. It's so good. It's so good.
Even though it's probably bad for algorithm, I want them to stop the video. You know, they might just get bored and, quit the video. It doesn't matter. Please stop the video and think for yourself, because that's backed up by science. And I think that's one reason why you love my channel, and we show some progress, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And yeah, I think teachers such as you and many others, we're doing many of these things right already. I also think it's important for students to understand why, because we can't just, maybe they don't want to listen, At least for me, I am a bit defiant. So I think that is the reason why I didn't just play and analyze like I was taught in the beginning of my journey. I just, but maybe this way is more efficient, or this way, because I need to know why I'm doing things.
Right. It's also very difficult for some adults, to have the time to go to tournaments and play. Most of my students are also a little bit shy, like there's a psychological element.
Yeah.
They want to really, really work a lot before they try their knowledge in a game, right? Like, you're also working on that on next course,
Yes.
So the psychological aspect of chess, why it's so black and white, why failure actually leads to some, disappointments and lack of motivation. So the game also has that side, right? Like the little bit of black and white side that also stops most players to dare to fail and learn and try and sometimes lose. And that's why it's so important that we should give them good scientific evidence, let's say education psychology evidence, that even though you fail, if you have this growth mindset, if you actually get reflection and if you get feedback from a coach, right, that's actually great for long-term growth. Like, you should take that from this discussion, at the very least, guys.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And also maybe now we can transition into these other ideas because we talked about mindset, dealing with failure, anxiety, but also this whole aspect of social part of chess learning. I think you're a big Chess Punks fan, right? So to you, being part of a group, right? The social aspect of chess learning. Tell us a bit about that also, Solveig. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so the thing that is actually quite interesting is that in the vocational school, and also when I was working in this industry, I've been working with engineers for several years.
Wow.
And I actually started to adopt a mindset of efficiency over everything. So some places, there's almost a culture amongst engineers that, discussions and meetings, they're too time-consuming, it hinders efficiency. So, I started to prefer working in isolation because I felt like, I can accomplish so much more, it's much faster. And on top of that, I'm also introverted. So, I find home office ideal, and too much social interaction, it's exhausting for me. And so I've actually been going through quite a big change here. And that's also because of my pedagogy studies, because they have taught me so much about this social nature of learning. Even for us weirdos who wants to be in solitude all the time, So because I had this preference of working alone, but at the pedagogy studies, I was dragged out of my comfort zone because I had to there's a huge emphasis on group work. And in the beginning, I I actually got a bit impatient, and I was a little bit like, oh, these discussions are taking way too much time. If I just had this assignment by myself, I could do it much more quickly. And I slowly like had to start face myself and realize that learning is not about being the most efficient. And learning is enhanced through social interactions, because even though you like to be alone and all of this, we are social animals, and we actually need other people to deepen our own understanding, retain information longer, and construct knowledge more efficiently. And that is like the essence of this social constructivism that you mentioned. And that is, by the way, a theory that I highly recommend viewers exploring if they're curious. And the idea is kind of that when you work in a group, you get exposed to multiple perspectives that are different from your own. And if you all solve the same task, but you can see how other people's actually attack that from another angle, that is very, very valuable. And here also we can touch on the importance of peer feedback and exchanging feedback with your peers, because when we give and receive feedback, we of course become aware of, strengths and weaknesses in our work that we might actually have missed on our own. And this is quite a dynamic process that is quite essential to growth, I feel like. And even also you have this learning pyramid model. It also highlights that one of the most effective ways to learn is actually to teach. And this also I experienced through creating the Breaking 1000 course for Chessable, because I had to teach concepts that I thought, oh, I have already mastered this, right? But then you are forced to simplify and articulate.
Absolutely.
And it was not so easy. So it actually deepened my own understanding a whole lot. So social learning, it's so powerful. And I think this is the challenge that we're facing now, not only in the vocational school, but also in chess learning, because we have this huge shift to these digital learning platforms. So how do we foster this engagement and collaboration when the learners are sat alone in front of their computer? That is an interesting thing to discuss. I don't know,
This is so interesting, Solveig.
Have you thought about this?
Yeah, I'm giving group lessons for the last 3 years, actually. So this is such an important thing to me also. I think about myself, which is more effective, individual lessons or group lessons? I'm not sure, because both has advantages, as you mentioned. Like I get great feedback from my students from the groups, for example, across those 3 years. We meet once a week, every single month. There are 4 to 6 students in a group. I think if it's too many students, that also can be hindering learning, because, I think there's a limit to it as well. But if it's a right size group, if the students are relatively close in rating because of the things you mentioned, this similar rating levels are important. So no students are feeling, bored, or they are sort of challenging each other. They're actually approaching the positions from different angles, as you mentioned, right? This protégé effect is so visible, for example. Sometimes one student is taking charge and explaining a concept to the others, for example. That's also great for motivation, I feel like. They play games throughout the day, actually, throughout the week. Then they analyze together as well. They discuss ideas. So I can see, like, from this first-hand craftsmanship experience, like this first-hand experience of actually the benefits of group teaching too, for the reasons that you just mentioned. They become teachers. They reflect on their mistakes. They see how others are also failing in a similar way sometimes, and that's also valuable. Right. So all these things actually quite beautifully coming through. One drawback to this, or maybe one requirement when it comes to group learning, is that I think they also have this growth mindset, right? Or they should not feel, for example, resented when the other students are doing better, or they feel like there's a big competition going on, or they might feel like a bandwagon effect. Maybe sometimes one student is taking over, right? He's the smart guy taking over, answering all the questions, and the other guys are just, basically just bystanders. So there are some drawbacks to this, but it's visible learning again. If both sides are intentional, if they have the right mindset to learning, this group learning is so effective. I think.
And it's also the question of just making everyone feel safe in that learning space as well. Feel safe to raise their hand and say the wrong thing, and feel like no one here is going to judge me.
Absolutely.
I think that is also important, but absolutely it's challenging for the teacher because I know with myself, I can be a pain in the ass, sorry, in group sessions, because I'm like, oh, I want to answer.
Yes.
And the others are just like, oh, can this woman chill?
Can this woman chill a bit?
Yes. So, but that is also a bit of the role of the teacher to be like, okay, so right now you've been answering a lot. Now you need to be quiet.
Yes.
Let them answer.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. That's my challenge as a coach as well. I have to like guide them in the right direction, right? So not one particular student is taking over the whole lesson, and just get everybody involved basically in a very safe environment. That's the key, I think, as you mentioned. They must feel extremely secure in that environment, that mistakes are welcome. Mistakes are actually growth opportunities because you get feedback, right, from the coach, from the people. We sometimes say little jokes to each other, you know, like we just accept our mistakes, you know, like that's actually a beautiful curriculum is also, of course, I create lessons. I follow a certain curriculum when it comes to group lessons. I want to teach them something that is actually important for chess. But again, I'm looking at their games. Sometimes they look at their games, they fail, and they bring their mistakes to the class. And that's how growth really takes place like that. It's actually quite a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and I think even at the Chessable platform itself, I see such a huge potential in the course forms. But I think this depends on the author and how much time they are able to invest in it. But I think as a minimum, I think students should be given, reflection tasks in the content and be prompted to discuss it with others on the forum. It doesn't take anything much of time from the author, and the more engaged authors who maybe have more time to invest each week, they could actually go a bit out of the box here. And find ways to utilize the Chessable course forum to get students to collaborate with each other, give peer feedback, and engage with them as a mentor. But this depends on how much time you have, and I totally understand not everyone has that time. But start viewing this forum more as a resource. I think I see so much potential there. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm exploring ways to completely restructure my new course to align with these models that we're discussing about practical learning and social constructivism. And it might not turn out perfectly, but I believe it might be an interesting step just to see, can I do something different? Will it be good for the students? And I just think it's important to, when you're a teacher, to continuously update your knowledge and remain open to adapt your methods. And because there's so many challenges that we are facing with these digital platforms, and we need to just tackle those, because the digital platforms, they can also be very valuable resources. We just need to find out how do we utilize them correctly. Yes. Right.
That's so important. You mentioned, by the way, guys, I should mention this. I think Solveig is very active on her course forum, Breaking 1000, right? Like you're actually bringing some chess coaches from time to time. You meet on Twitch. You even bring the course students together. They can ask questions to the coach. You have these interactive lessons, right? To support them as well. Yeah, that's so important. It seems like you're really building a nice community around that course, Solveig. That's beautiful.
I want to do that, and I want to do that for the next one as well, because I think it's in line with all these models that
all these theories that you mentioned. You're applying it in real context. There's also, of course, a lot of trying as well. There's also Chessable Classroom, by the way, we should mention. Chessable Classroom allows, this interactive lessons. They can go up to 100 students, I believe, right? It's kind of crazy. but Chessable actually encourages people or coaches to also use Chessable Classroom for their teaching. So you can also check that out. I think there are some nice tools, like you can give quizzes while you can test individuals while the others are not seeing their answers, right? You can play simultaneous games. So there are some technological tools that is also making it a bit more effective for our teachers to give lessons.
It's interesting. It's very interesting.
Then maybe in the final phase of this talk, let's discuss your new course, right? You're working on a new course right now. As you mentioned, it's always a challenging thing, of course, to write the Chessable course, as you know, right? It takes time and so on. So what is the course about, basically? Is it about the psychological aspects of chess?
It's about cultivating courage over the board.
Wow. That sounds very relevant.
Quite interesting. Getting in touch with your inner attacker, but it's geared towards beginners. So it's I think it will be quite interesting.
That sounds super interesting. So is it mostly like how to deal with failure, elo anxieties, all these courage issues, and so on that people face usually?
We do touch upon it. I don't think I will touch specifically on elo anxiety, but to be honest, I see this so much, just like even on Twitter, that people are very stressed about their elo, and of course my course is titled Breaking 1000, so it's even like geared towards rating, but in a way the rating should not be the focus, I feel like. And
right.
Yeah, I just feel like I see a lot of anxiety, and people are stressed and they're afraid to fail, and even they can become a bit scared to try, like even putting yourself out there to join a chess club or a tournament. It seems so scary. And you know what, personally I have grappled with facing my own fears a lot. I struggled with, over respecting my opponent, seeing threats on the board that wasn't really there, being terrified of making mistakes. I was really scared of blundering my pieces, or like making a fool of myself. And when I look back, I think that this was a bit shaped by my personality, because I'm naturally a bit anxious, and I'm very like prone to overthinking, and I also tend to be a perfectionist. So my confidence actually falters a lot when I'm trying something new, because I want to be perfect at it straight away. But here again, we can go back to what we talked about regarding these practical learning methods, because the knowledge, it must be built on the practical experience. So that means that you actually have to try your best to push yourself out of your comfort zone and get the volume of games in, because mistakes are a natural part of the learning process. We all experience mistakes. Even Magnus Carlsen does mistakes.
Blunders. Yes.
And when you overlook something or miscalculate, you need to like not be too hard on yourself, because making mistakes doesn't mean that you're stupid. And you also need to know that your opponent has blundered badly many times in their career as well. So if they judge you, they're like throwing stones in glass houses. So, so I think like for anyone out there who tends to like berate themselves for every single mistake they make, they need to take seriously that you just have to work on cultivating a more positive mindset, because you're going to continue to make mistakes on your journey toward intermediate or expert, and you actually have to make those mistakes to get there. So the sooner you accept that, the better. And failure to accept that, it will only hinder your progress, so to speak. And that's one thing. Like, I can sit here and say, you have to be more positive, you have to realize this, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, how do we do that in practice? And I think one of the things that I've done is that you actually need to stop yourself if you notice that your thoughts about yourself gets negative. So you have to realize, like, your thoughts are not reality. The thoughts are actually pretty random. So if your mind starts to like be nasty towards you, you need to tell your mind, like, hey, mistakes are actually a natural part of the learning process, so you need to shut up. And another very like practical tip that is to just turn off the rating on the chess playing platform.
Zen
like
mode,
both chess.com and Lichess, they have those functions, and I've done that because I get scared when I see the opponent is much higher rated, because I over-respect them. So I found that hiding the ratings, it helps me relax. I'm not as stressed. And even I heard Gotham Chess talking about this, so it's not only beginners who get stressed out by rating, by the way. And what I noticed is like some of my best games are actually now towards like 1800s, and they perform...
And you know their rating?
Yeah, and some of them play worse than a 1500, like they blunder a checkmate or something. And then I start to think, oh, maybe these 1800s are not some gods. They're not that different. And yeah, we just need to decentralize this focus on rating. It's okay to have a rating goal, but you need to understand that the progress is not a linear graph. It's going up and down. It's a plateau, up and down, up and down. But over time, you see the improvement. It's kind of like the stock market in a way. If you obsessively check your investment every single day,
then you get miserable. Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
you get mad. So you
Yes.
need to make this conscious decision to not get caught up in it.
Not get caught up in it. Look at the big picture. Aim for the bigger picture, and also, enjoy the little steps that you take. Right? Enjoy the little achievements. Right? Process goals instead of this rating goals that is like dictating your entire chess play. Right? Like this small improvements.
I even talked to a title player about this, and I don't know if they agreed. I don't know if any strong player will agree with me, but I feel like there is its own charm to being 1200. It is its own charm to be 1500, because you get these funny situations and blunders, and you actually get to do these cheesy tactics, and it is a lot of fun. And chess, it changes a bit as you progress and you get better and better. So it's also a little bit about appreciating where you are and the fun of it, like the fun of the blunders. It's funny.
Amazing. Yeah. You will never become 1200 again. Enjoy the process.
Yes.
This is so amazing, because this is such a huge topic. I think we will meet again around when your course will be published. I would love to talk to you only about this aspect of chess, which is so relevant also for me as a coach. Because I sometimes feel like a psychiatrist, I mean, not only a chess coach, but also a psychologist. I mean, you can imagine, right? Like, I have so many students, they play games, they lose, frustrations. Sometimes they are in a very high level scale of intelligence. For example, they're like very high IQ people, and they expect, right? They expect instant results. They expect instant improvement, and it doesn't happen. And then they get frustrated. So it's huge.
Yeah, and this... I think, this again ties a bit back to what we talked about earlier with the mathematician and the sculptor. And it's like, it doesn't really matter how intelligent you are. The first time you make a sculpture is probably going to look like shit. It doesn't matter how smart you are. You need to practice it,
just like my YouTube growth. Like, if I check back my first videos, it just completely stinks. It probably still stinks. If I go back after 10 years, it's just terrible. Like, how can you make such videos, right? But
never go back to your earliest videos. I've done that as well, and I'm just what was I thinking? It's so
terrible. Yeah. Chess crimes, as we used to say, right? We have to accept our chess crimes, but try to seek feedback and why those chess crimes are taking place, right? Let's make peace with our mistakes. I think that's the key, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, chess will be, I think, a boring game if things will be so easy. If there's one size fits all approach, if everybody can get so much better over time, I think chess will be a boring game. I think this very depth of the game, this complexity and this resistance of boiling out to a certain algorithms that always works. I think that's also fascinating when it comes to chess, right?
Yeah, definitely.
The whole motivation side, that's why I ask you, why chess, right? Why do you think this game is so beautiful and lovely, and why do you want to invest your time on this game?
Yeah.
What makes chess so interesting?
I want to crack the code. I want to understand. You when I started out, chess was just like this huge mystery, and I would sit in these group classes with. Because I signed up for the beginner courses, and once I finished the beginner course, I would sign up for the beginner course again just to make sure I didn't miss anything. So I would do that alongside the intermediate course, and then the intermediate course, it would be a little bit too difficult, and then all of the other people in the class, they would be like, oh yeah, F5 is clearly an idea here, that is the pawn break you need to go for. And I just sat there like,
why?
Why are everyone agreeing? I don't understand, because you don't see the position. You just see a bunch of pieces on the board. You don't understand the positional ideas. It's just like a huge mystery, and I wanted to understand that. And the more I understand, the more I just realize I don't understand anything, and then it becomes this loop. You want to get a better grip on this amazing game, right? Yes.
That's the key. So you get your motivation from that, and that's a beautiful approach. Instead of, hey, I want to become 1600, right? That's if you compare two approaches, I think yours is much more healthy in some sense. That this love and passion for the game itself, I think, is the key.
Yeah, and it's like I've never been motivated. I'm not a competition person. I don't enjoy competing. Like, even when I was younger, I did horseback riding. Like, I did show jumping. But I didn't enjoy the competition part because I would get too nervous. I'm too anxious. I don't have the nerves for it. I will get upset stomach. I will not be able to sleep. And it's just a miserable experience for me. And it's kind of like that in tournaments as well. So for me, I much more enjoy the studying part and improving technique and understanding more. And this is like where the joy comes from me. But this is not a one size fits all because some people get motivated and love the competition part. So
right. They are so different also when it comes to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
What about you?
I mean, I basically also I'm probably a competitive person myself. Like, I mean, maybe not as crazy competitive as some other guys, but definitely, I mean, also in terms of academia, you know, like it's a very competitive field in itself, and you know, like publishing or perishing, you know, like, it actually breeds that kind of mentality that we always have to compete with other guys. They are like, you know, fighting for papers and names in the articles and all these things. But I think I stopped playing competitive for maybe 2-3 years right now because I feel like I have to choose, although maybe that's actually also incorrect. But I think I also need that, you know, practical experience a little bit to also see how students are feeling like actually going through. I want to come back to competitive chess at some point because life has been so busy from my side, like building this new company and chess teaching, coaching, transitioning. And so I thought maybe I can stop for the moment with playing and I can focus on teaching and get better at this. And then maybe we can go back to it at some point. But I love the game in itself. That's the motivating part to me as well. Not that, you know, I go and crush everyone's egos as Fischer says, right? So I think it's definitely passion driven and I want to understand this game truly in depth basically. Because if you think about that, right, chess is such a beautiful game. It's a complete equalizer, you know, it has no barriers. Everyone can learn it. Anyone can excel at it. It's an open information game, right? There is nothing, you know, conceded information. Everything is open and everything is sort of up to you in some sense, right? To get better in it if you put the effort and motivation. So I love that particular part of the game, which is also, as I said, defeating like algorithmic approaches that always works. There are different approaches, as you mentioned, right? Some people are like to sacrifice material to get this, you know, different dimension of chess, dynamics. Some people are endgame players. They love to play like that, like Karpov, Petrosian, right? All stylistic approaches, different approaches to this beautiful part. I think that's the key to my motivation and passion for the game. And I want to give this to my students because that's sort of, predicts long-term engagement with this beautiful game.
That's so interesting. And even when I hear you talk, I get very inspired. And I even realized like a big reason also why I kept my love for the game after the initial obsession is also because the game has taught me a lot about myself. And this might sound very like airy-fairy, but honestly, I feel like it helps me develop as a person. And especially if we think about those things we talked about with fear and anxiety and all of these things, because I really had to work through this in my chess, because if you don't trust yourself when you play chess, you're going to struggle to seize the initiative and you're going to risk becoming too passive in your play. And you know, just to have the confidence to experiment and also learning to be flexible. That is also a huge thing, right? Because in some situations you need to be cautious, you need to be a material hoarder, you need to minimize risks, but in other situations you actually have to go for the kill. And you can't rely on one single approach in every single situation. And I think our natural tendencies can be to which one we gravitate towards. I think that can be a bit influenced by our personalities. So for me, for example, it's much more natural for me to be aggressive and take control, both in the chess board, but also like in life in general, because I feel safer when I can control the flow of events, and it probably explains why I gravitated towards management, because I like making decisions. But on the other hand, I think it's very challenging and uncomfortable to be passive and follow someone else's lead. And I think recognizing and exploring these traits in myself, it's been very interesting. And I think you can learn a lot about yourself if you analyze how you're playing. And even my coach, Petter Haugli, he told me, show me how a man plays chess and I can tell you a lot about his personality. So I believe like cultivating, flexibility and courage, it can start with looking inward and understanding your own tendencies. And I think personal development, it plays a significant role in becoming a more adaptable and confident player, and it plays a huge role as to why I've become so obsessed with it.
This is such a beautiful analogy, Solveig. I mean, the game teaches us about our own personality and psychology. We observe, right, on the go as we make decisions, something about ourselves, right? In those critical moments, why do I shy from giving up a pawn and getting a winning position, right? Like, I am afraid of something. I'm afraid of something, of uncertainty, perhaps. Yeah. What if I lose? Is it worth it? And I also have so many students like this across the years. One student recently, I will make a video about this, will be published soon. Then we identified him as a passive player. He was, never taking risks, always exchanging queens, go for an endgame. So we identified that as a clear area of improvement. Then I give him, across maybe a couple of months, training game positions where he was supposed to crush me from a much better position that involve an attack, kingside attack and push. And the final week, last week, he crushed me from one of the most amazingly beautiful attacks that I've seen. So he actually improved on that area of chess. And this is such a nice thing to observe as a coach, right? He sort of broke something in his chess life, and he dared to take risks and actually show his newly developed skills. I mean, that's so incredible.
I got goosebumps.
Yeah,
I love that.
It's so amazing. I will make a video about this soon.
I'm definitely going to watch that video. That's so amazing. Like getting to push yourself out of the comfort zone that way, and then you fail, but finally you have that breakthrough and you crush your coach. Like that is the best feeling.
It's also for the coach,
Yes, you don't even care the student crushed you. You're just happy for them.
Of course, it's so amazing to see that growth. And I mean, this is endless beauty and ocean, and there's so many things to discuss, Solveig. But this was a beautiful first start. I mean, thank you so much for coming to the show again. I hope you also enjoyed it, my subscribers. Please give us feedback, and I definitely invite you again before your course is published. Is there something else that we forgot to mention, Solveig? You are always welcome to add more things.
I think we've been through a whole lot. I'm even impressed how many things we go through in such a short amount of time, really. And I really enjoyed this chat and getting to hear your experiences as well as a really strong player and a really experienced coach and all of this. It's really valuable for me also to be able to talk about these things, because to be honest, I don't have anyone in my life who cares to talk about these things.
Exactly.
So it's
same here.
so to get to talk to someone about it, it's so nice, and it's it constructs new learning for me.
It constructs new learning for sure.
Yes.
Same here. By the way, Solveig's nickname is Rookie Redhead. I'm sure now she should be called Club Player Redhead or something, because definitely. But I like rookie part, because we talked so much about being a beginner, having this curiosity mindset today, learning from others. I think you should keep that rookie part, even though you reach a master level. That rookie, I think, signifies this willingness to learn and openness to new information and challenging our beliefs and thoughts. That's my little suggestion to you, Solveig. And also for me, I mean, I need to talk to people from different domains of life to get a better person and better coach, basically. So that's why it was one of the reasons I actually invited you today, to get beautiful lessons from psychology, education, but also as a Chessable author and a player who improved significantly over the years. I still don't have any idea how do you fix everything and having full-time job. That's a whole different discussion we can have later on, because right?
But that is also a skill you can learn from chess, time management.
Time management, as you mentioned. You're a manager. You made some right decisions there, I think. Like engineering approach, this efficiency. Then we can also listen to your stories about that at a later stage, Solveig. Thank you so much for coming again. Yeah. And by the way, guys, again, Breaking 1000, link on description. Please check that. Amazing reviews. Please go and buy. That's also, by the way, a nice compliment to my Chess Elevator course for you who already own that, because my Chess Elevator is mostly about those fundamental thought process of seeing the threat, blunder check, but Solveig also mixes strategy and endgame puzzles to our course. Opening, development, center, strategy, endgame, which is great for learning because we are interleaving different approaches. We are mixing up different parts of the game. So that course can also complement my Chess Elevator course on Chessable. So please go and check it. Amazing reviews when we see it. And also next course is coming soon, probably sometime next year. I would love to host you again to discuss that one as well, Solveig. Thank you so much for coming.
I would be honored to come talk to you. I've been having so much fun. I'm going to live on this my whole Saturday.
Same
I'm probably gonna go bother my partner now about these things.
Same here. Absolutely beautiful, Joy, to have you. And I'm sure we'll see each other again, because this is just starting in my YouTube channel. This long format podcast, it's only beginning, and more to come in the future. I'm sure our roads will cross again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.